Thank you for showing up today. I'm so happy you're here. I'm glad to see that you're here, and I'm sure that you've shown up today because you also care for children in the 0 to 3 age range. We just wanted to start real quick before we go on for our introductions to show you a picture of a bulletin board that we have in our program. This is at our Bon Air facility where we have infants and toddlers, and we take some little photos of the children when they are demonstrating our expectations of being safe, being kind, and being respectful. And my favorite little picture on that bulletin board is of a little toddler. She was a little girl who noticed a little boy who was sad and was crying. She went over and got a tissue and dried his tears. And there's a little caption that says she was being kind to her friend by making him feel better. So they have a little picture and a little caption of what we saw them doing. So it kind of reinforces for them that we are safe and kind and respectful. Okay. So my name is Kathy Frederick. Myself and Jacqueline, work for Early Learning Connections. We provide services in both Butler County and Armstrong County. We're over in the western region of Pennsylvania. I've been with the program for 30 years, working in a variety of capacities throughout both Head Start, early Head Start, pre-K counts, our child care program. So we do a lot of early childhood programming. And I was a program director for many, many years, and we started implementing PBIS in the 2017-2018 school year. And as a director, I ended up becoming an independent facilitator. Thank you, Lisa. And we found it was so valuable and so important to our program that now that's my role. I am a program-wide PBIS facilitator for the organization, and I am also the kindergarten transition coordinator. Okay, this is Jacqueline.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Haranica. I've been with our organization for, I think it's going on 7 years. I spent a couple years as a classroom teacher. I was a coach, and now I am a program manager, largely in our Armstrong County sites. I do have one in Butler County. My EHS sites are in our Armstrong County building in Ford City, where we are currently working on recognition, working on getting to recognition there.
So this is a little bit, if you're familiar with Early Head Start and Head Start, this is a little bit about all of the things that we do. So we're the grantee for the Head Start and Early Head Start programs in Butler and Armstrong counties. We also have infant toddler contracted slots, if you've ever heard of infant toddler contracted slots. It's an extension of the CCW Child Care Works program, and we were awarded that grant in 2019. And in the building that we saw, the bulletin board, there are 16 of those infant toddler contracted slots in that Bon Air facility. All of our other birth to 3 programs are early Head Start. So just like ITCS is a child care program, and that program funds the slots. So just like pre-K counts, they're funded a slot. So those little infants and toddlers come to our program. The families are funded through CCW. They don't pay anything. If they leave the program, then we just refill the slot. So it's considered a child care program, but it's designed much like pre-K counts. We also converted some of our Head Start slots to early Head Start center-based slots. So we have 2 of those classrooms in Armstrong County, and altogether we serve 32 infants and toddlers in early Head Start. We also have home-based programming. So we have home-based programming for early Head Start and home-based children, and we have parent educators that go into those homes. And if you know anything about home-based, then they have socializations twice a month. with that being said, all of those little pictures, if you're familiar with, we're part of the Pennsylvania Key. We are a Star 4 facility. We follow all of the regulations for Head Start, Early Head Start, Keystone Stars. So just in that alone, and Infant Toddler Contracted Slots has its own set of rules and regulations, drive us to be a high-quality program. There's a lot of performance standards, a lot of rules, a lot of regulations, and then when we added pyramid model practices on top of that, our children had really, really great outcomes as they transitioned into preschool. Okay. All right. So when we think about infants and toddlers, so we do mixed age groups, which is really, really tricky, and it's hard to figure out. But we do mixed age groups. So in our infant toddler groups, there are children who are 6 weeks to 36 months, and then they would transition to preschool. So continuity of care has been very important to us as it promotes primary caregiving and minimizes the number of transitions in the teachers and teaching assistants that the children experience over the course of their day, week, program year, and to extent possible during the first 3 years of their participation with us. And then in the home-based program, those little kiddos remain with the same parent educator from birth to 3 years old, and then they would help those kiddos transition to preschool. So continuity of care is really, really important, and that's the foundation for developing those secure, nurturing, caring, responsive relationships. So in order to do that, and I don't have a picture of it with me, but the staff use a visual supervision board to show each primary caregiver group. If one staff is off, they adjust the groups so that there is a person that knows the children and has a relationship with them. So I know since COVID, there's been some turnover in staff, but we have been able to maintain consistency with those groups of kids. So perhaps if there was someone in that group, and there are many different people that may be coming in and out of the classroom. So there may be a lead teacher, an assistant. In Early Head Start, there's 2 teachers. So in ITCS, there may be a lead teacher and an assistant teacher. And then there are people that may be going in there to support them. So as much as we could, we always tried to have like 3 people in their groups that the kids always knew and got to know and had relationships with. So if one person had to move out, someone else could step up to be that primary caregiver. And it was always someone that the children had an initial relationship with. Okay. So in our system of continuity of care, those kids remain with that familiar caregiver. And say, as they get older and they need to change environments because the environment's not developmentally appropriate for them anymore, they need to move on to a more environment that's toddler friendly, that teacher or that primary caregiver would move with that child. As we transition them to preschool, their primary caregivers also went with them to support that transition to preschool. So they stayed with them for sometimes weeks at a time before they would begin to develop that relationship with their new preschool teacher. And that preschool teacher would have been spending time with them prior to their transition. So that's all about relationships. So we're all about relationship building in our program. Okay. So those high-quality supportive environments in our pyramid model practices are so important as well. For infants, if you care for infants, we know that they use individualized feeding schedules. So it's individualized feeding, sleeping, and diapering routines, and developmentally appropriate environments for those infants. For toddlers, we always want to, make sure that we have those consistent, predictable routines, and we'll show you some of the visuals that we use for that. Environments are divided into developmentally appropriate safe activity areas that promote engagement. There are rules and expectations. We really, really work on those routines to ensure there are smooth transitions between activities and environmental cues throughout their classrooms. We do use a curriculum. Our curriculum that we implement is the creative curriculum for infants, toddlers, and twos. And the framework that guides the curriculum has routines and experiences at its core. The routines and experiences that structure each day and the responsive care and teaching provided during these times are what enable children to develop a secure attachment with their primary caregiver and gain confidence in themselves as learners. So that's our curriculum. This is an example of a daily schedule that would be in a toddler room. So toddlers are able to understand how the day progresses. There's a little, and most of them, all the teachers have the ability to create their visuals the way they would like. We have universal visuals for them to use, but if they want to do something like this, they can. And this one has a little star that they move down. Some of them have arrows. Some of them, we just give the teachers some freedom and autonomy for them to create their visuals. Yeah.
For our schedules in our EHS rooms, as the year progresses, the teachers take pictures of the children engaging in these activities and start to change over their graphics so that the kids will see themselves on the schedule, and it makes it a little bit more real for them as they start to age and they understand it a little bit better.
And they all have their classroom expectations, and this is the one that we created for them. The expectations are be safe, be kind, be respectful. You can see how it moves down through. There's be safe, and there's pictures of the children being safe, and there's pictures of how to be kind and be respectful. And the caregivers actually take the kiddos to the little photos, to the pictures, and they talk about them. And they use those. And there's one of them in there about give me 5. So they start as toddlers, because in preschool they do give me 5. So if they learn how to give me 5 when they're older toddlers, then that carries over to when they are in preschool. So when you give me 5, you're respectful. Your eyes are on me. You have a quiet voice. You have listening ears and a still body. So that's something that they teach them. And then Jacqueline has something in Armstrong.
In our Armstrong rooms, we have those behavior pictures posted. They're on the classroom door. We put them on the restroom door and throughout the classrooms. We have found it very successful. Before we leave the room to go to the bathroom, for example, we take the primary caregivers, take their children and go, what do we do in the hallway? We be safe. How are we safe? We walk. How are we kind? We're quiet, or we're gentle with our friends. It really kind of depends on the kids, what you use for be kind. Our children, our EHS children, are honestly probably the best behaved children in the hallway and the bathroom, because their teachers take the time to go over these expectations before they leave the classroom, before they're coming back from the bathroom, or when they're going outside or coming in from outside, or at arrival times. Our teachers take a lot of time to go over what that means so our kids really understand it and can engage in those behaviors.
You want to talk a little about this? This is a picture of how one teacher designed her Be Safe, Be Respectful visuals, and she put them on these little rings, and they're actually pictures of kids that are in their classroom.
So our teachers have this as well, and whenever they're on the floor playing with the kids, the wall pictures aren't always necessarily close or easily accessible, and if the kids are a behavior we're seeing a lot at the moment is a lot of climbing. So they'll use the Be Safe, and they'll show Be Safe, and you're like, be safe, we keep our feet on the floor. And whenever they put their feet back down on the floor, we give them a lot of positive feedback. Say, great job keeping your feet on the floor, great job being safe. And then we also have, one of our rooms has these, but without the rings on them, for the children to use in the room and go to and look at. The kids respond very well to them. There are children who will take be kind or be safe if they see a friend who is not being maybe kind or safe, and go over and be like, be safe, be kind. So they're responding very, very well to them.
And then one of the early Head Start teachers, they take the kids outside on a walking rope. And if you ever did that with toddlers, to take them outside and they all have to hold on to a walking rope, it's really hard to teach them how to do that. So she took pictures of the children holding on to the walking rope. And these are older toddlers, of course. So using those photos of the children, the teachers made this visual support to teach the children how to be safe when going for a walk using the walking rope. And then on the back of the card, they actually have a script for the people who are using those visuals, and it tells them how to use them with the kids and what to say with the expectations for walking together on the rope. And then they just carry them with them when they're outside. And then this is the back of those little cards. Okay. Explains how we are safe and how we are follow our teachers, use our walking feet, hold the rope, and be safe. And another thing that through training, and there's been a lot of training with our staff, they really, really focus on telling the kids what they want to see them doing. So like Jacqueline said, and they're keen observers. So observing to prevent the behavior is something that they practice, and they really have to have, a lot of good observation skills. So when they see a child attempting to climb, they remind them to be safe. We keep our feet on the floor. Put your feet on the floor to be safe. And then routines within routines, they might use some visuals for. And a teacher made this one about washing hands. So this is a visual of how they wash their hands. And pointing to the pictures as they do each step helps the child learn how to wash their hands, which are routines within the routines. And then this, as Jacqueline said, a little visual of how they teach the kids to line up to go to the hallway. So if they're in a big building, they have to leave their classroom to go outside to the playground or to go to another part of the building. And they remind them that we're quiet, we listen, we look ahead, we keep our hands at our side, and we stay in line, and we use walking feet. And then there's another example of how a teacher made a rule chart, because they can be safe, they can keep their feet on the floor and their hands to themselves. And then another example of a matrix in an area. All of the areas have a matrix. This one says art rules. What are the rules when they're at the art table? There's one for meals. So when they're at the table, what's the expectation for the table? We eat the food that's on our own plate. One of the first rules they focus on is using gentle hands. That's probably one of the first rules that they work on. We're safe, we're kind, we use gentle hands. And the teachers help the children use gentle touches, teach them how to use gentle hands, especially since they do these mixed age groups and there may be babies in the group. So that's very, very important when they're teaching them how to be gentle with each other, especially when there's babies in the classroom. And so they use visuals with pictures and teaching how to use the materials in the classroom too. And that's just an example of the matrix. And our matrices are in the bathroom, in the hallway, at each play area. So we can teach them that we eat with our spoon when we're sitting at the table, or we use our fork. This is another example of just a basic classroom rules chart, and we would like them to have pictures of the kids, but this one just has some icons on it, and this is what the teacher uses, and she takes the kids over to them to remind them. And they use this with pretty, young toddlers, because we're just learning to walk and take turns and listen and clean up. Okay. And then family engagement is another part of our pyramid model practices. We really try very hard to connect with our family and engage with our families. This is an example from NCPMI on strategies that a parent can use at home to help their infant calm. And these are the same strategies that the caregiver would be using in the classroom, and providing this to the families to help them duplicate those interactions and have that homeschool connection. And there's one of these for toddlers too, and you can look that up on NCPMI. I think I put it over there in the little footnote. So there's one for infants and one for toddlers. So that's a really nice example from NCPMI. And there are a lot of handouts and things that we use from our curriculum too. The creative curriculum has a number of things from teaching strategies. Do you want to talk about any of that? Okay. All right. So in order to, so our staff see our families every day. So they see them at drop-off, they see them at pickup, and they have the opportunity to share information at that point, or use that time to schedule a chat for a more in-depth conversation. So we do have 4 conferences a year that the parents have to have with the teachers, and any other conferences that they may have to get together as a team. Maybe they need to get together as a team to have what we call tips meetings to develop a plan. And they may be doing on that. They may do that to develop plans together. Okay. And this is an example of a little activity that a teacher has posted where they're diaper changing. So if you've ever tried to change a wiggly toddler who doesn't want to get changed, this is an example of some engaging interactions that just reminds the caregivers that these are some things that they can do with them when they're on the diaper changing table. And they have rhymes to them, which also helps with language and literacy. And then when they talk to the child, they tell them what they're doing as well, explaining to the child all those steps that they're going through to get changed. Another way that our teachers use interaction, they use a lot of rhymes and songs during transitions between outside and inside. And they have the kiddos sing with them or do rhymes with them while they're walking outside to their outdoor play space or coming back from the play space. And this helps the students stay focused on the teacher and stay with the group, engaging in appropriate behavior while they're walking from one place to another. So if you're trying to get toddlers to go from one place to another, it's kind of tricky. And in one of the buildings, they just sing this little sing-songy tune. It's follow the leader, and they just do that the whole way down the hall. And the kids will chant it behind them, and they learn to follow the leader. Okay, and then
along with that, in our Armstrong County building, we have a ramp for our toddlers to go up and down to get into the building, and my office is right by the ramp. Nearly every single day when the kids are going outside, I hear them doing their chant. They tend to go with "We Are the Dinosaurs," "We Are the Dinosaurs," marching, and they do a lot of different actions as the children are walking that are safe for them to do while walking. It really does keep them very focused on walking down the ramp, staying with their teachers, not letting go of their rope or, eloping anywhere while we go to the playground.
And I often hear, "Follow the leader wherever she may go." And they just chant it the whole way down the hall. And there's one about Here's the bunny. And this is from Conscious Discipline. They're the I love you rituals. And we also let the teachers know, like the parents know, these are some of the things that we're doing in the classroom, because when toddlers go home, they start to repeat these rhymes and they start to sing the songs, and the parents can sing them and do them with them at home. And then teachers help the kids identify their feelings. So we use feeling words, lots and lots of feelings words. And they learn about feelings. And this is an example of some feeling faces. These little feeling faces are from NCPMI, and they're posted above a mirror, and the children make their feeling faces in the mirror. Sometimes they'll go over and they'll practice making their feeling faces. So if you've ever looked at a toddler looking at themselves in a mirror, they like to make faces. It's lots of fun. And it's an engaging way to teach children to identify and label their feelings, and that it's okay. It's okay to have feelings and what they can do when they feel that way. We also have lots and lots of books that students can look at to help them identify feelings. The Way I Feel is a very popular one as well. And in that book, there are babies and toddlers' photographs. And for the older toddlers who are above the age of 2 and can use dough, they have...
We have what they are called they're dough mats with faces, and then the background pictures kind of give the kids a little bit of indication what feeling it might be, and it does say the feeling on it. The teachers will work with the kids and say, we're going to make a scared face. Can you show me your scared face? Let's make the scared face on the mat. I picked scared because that was a very, very popular feeling to demonstrate with our older toddlers in our last program year. They really did enjoy the dough mats. They used The Way I Feel a lot. That was one of the children's favorite books. They love to sit, they love to listen to it, they love to interact with it and make the faces and predict what the faces are going to be and what the feelings exhibit. If you have never checked that book out, I strongly recommend it.
And those dough mats are a resource you can find on the NCPMI website. One of the teachers made this little book. So we have lots of books that we make. One of the teachers made this from some resources she had on the internet, and she would use this with the child to teach them what they can do when they get angry or mad, or they have a strong feeling, or they're upset. And this would be used when the child is calm and can understand and talk about the steps. And something like this would be used maybe with an older toddler. And then they start to talk about, Tucker Turtle tucks and, tucks and things. And we use the PATHS curriculum in preschool, so we're using Twiggle with that as well. Okay, so this is a little... that to go. This was for one particular child. I mean, this was for an individual child. And when you can make these, and you can actually put their names in them, and there are pictures. And I have down, she got that from Teachers Pay Teachers. And then that's their little calm down, quiet area that they have with blankets and books and feeling faces. And then lots of visuals in those classrooms. So there's lots of visuals. We've got some feet on the floor where they stand to line up to go outside. And their materials are all labeled with pictures. So there's actual pictures of the materials that go in that basket, just like we would do with the creative curriculum in preschool. We do that. We do that with toddlers too. So there's lots of, and it's a very language-rich environment. There's photos, there's printed words. So there's cues throughout the environments to help children know where the materials go when cleaning up, because cleaning up is really hard when you're a toddler. There are pictures of the materials on the baskets to help them sort them into the correct basket, and then they have the little feet. Yeah, the fence post. You can talk about that.
Our playground in my building, it's very long because it's along the side of the building, and we originally had a lot of difficulty getting our kids to come to where the gate was. It's fun to play outside. You don't want to go in. And then not understanding, like, we need you to stand up here, stay up here, so we can get in line and count you and go inside and be safe. So we had the idea of actually getting handprints, kind of like those feet prints, and we put them all along the fence posts where we needed the kids to stand. So after we did that, we could tell them, go stand, put your hand on the handprint. It worked very well. Our kids are very good at lining up now. We don't really have any issues with it. They do love the handprints a lot.
And you can also put that little sing-songy rhyme to it too. Put your hand on the wall, on the wall. Put your hand on the wall, on the wall. Put your hand on the wall. While you're standing in the hall, put your hand on the wall, on the wall. And the kids would start to sing that too. And these are some more examples of some books that they made for the kiddos. The ones on the right here were universal. Our core leadership team got together and we created all of those. So those are all available for the teachers. So if there's still some routines within routines for the cleanup time, so there's one that breaks down cleanup. And there are some kids that are neurodiverse that really get extremely anxious when we have a fire drill. It's very loud in some of the buildings. So when they get new children and they know they might be sensitive to loud sounds, they'll use this little fire drill book to prepare them, to let them know that when they hear this loud sound, this is what's going to happen. And it's just a fire drill, and it's just something that they're going to practice. It's very heart-wrenching when a very small child gets upset when we have a fire drill. So we try to prepare them as much as possible by helping them understand that it's going to be really, really loud. And they can put their hands over their ears if they want. Okay. And they can also read them in small groups. But I Can Be Safe, I Can Be Kind, I Can Be Respectful books, they have pictures of the children. And here's just one way one of the teachers made a book to teach the expectations of lining up in the hallway. So we line up in the hallway. Sometimes we have to leave our classroom. Sometimes we have to go other places. And talking, sometimes they have to leave the classroom to go to a fire drill because they have to go to the playground. And they sing their little song. And that's a lot. They don't get it the first time. These things happen through repetition, and they read them. So these are probably kids that are ready to really, really, really getting them ready to move into those preschool classrooms. And then this is a little song they all sing before they go. A poem, a rhyme they all say before they go out into the hall. And this one's just posted. And then there's the hall matrix would be posted right beside that. And then they sing their Follow the Leader song. So what we found, now there's some screening data that we had from our kids that were in Bon Air, from our program, from infancy, when we reopened from COVID in June of 2020, And then from till July of 2023, when those kids were transitioning to preschool. A group of them were infants. I think the data was looking at a total of 15 kiddos. So what we found when we screened them at their transition to preschool when they were 36 months old, they had an average score of 20 on their 36-month ASQ-SC2 screening. So you can see what the breakdown of that is. So no or low risk was 0 to 75. And they scored 20. Now, in this group, there were at least 2 children that qualified for early intervention. And they got IFSPs, they got their therapist in there, they started working with them. And when they transitioned to preschool, they did not qualify for an IEP. Like, they exited services rather quickly. Thank you. Yeah, that was something to celebrate. That was really interesting. And for the first time, when we started doing this, for the first time, that group of toddlers that transitioned to preschool were all toilet trained. And our preschool teachers were so happy. They were so thrilled that they were all toilet trained when they left. That does not always happen. That was a rare occurrence for that. All of those 15 kids, that whole group, they went to preschool toilet trained.
Were they in the ITCS classroom? Or were they
That was the group that was in the ITCS classroom. Because they were together the longest. Because I used that data because they were together the longest. Okay. And then, interestingly, when I was looking at this data, the interesting thing that, I noticed, when you do all of these things with the kids, you're talking. PBIS, all these pyramid model practices, you talk and you talk and you talk. It's language rich. There's print, there's songs and rhymes. And what we found, what was interesting to me, was their communication score. All of those kids had an average communication score of 50. That was the average, was 56. And the highest on the ASQ3 scale was 60. And those kids could have extended conversations with each other, with their caregivers. So I found that fascinating, that through all of the pyramid model practices, that their communication skills were so good. So the outcomes by the end of the time this group went to preschool were pretty good. Okay. So in home base, so we do this also in home base. So we have parent educators, we use the parents as teachers curriculum, and then they have those socialization groups that they get together twice a month. So in 2017, we began implementing PWE. So if you know what that is, parents interacting with infants and toddlers, but it's just called PWE. And along with our parents as teachers curriculum, to support the parent or other caregiver as they interact with the infant or toddler. So training was provided to the parent educators, and we designed the socialization rooms that would resemble our center-based ITCS early Head Start classrooms. So in 2020, we started to use our PBIS expectations and resources that we were using in center-based in that home-based model when they would come to socializations. And the PE helps the parents create a home matrix for them at home and with their expectations, and it helps them develop, the PE also helps them develop schedules and routines and will help them create those visuals to use in the home as well. And the PEs work to promote those nurturing, caring, and supportive interactions environments that foster a positive parent-child relationship. And then if you were interested in learning a little bit more about PWE, there's a training module, and you can find that on NCPMI, but it was from CEFL. So as we move through that, Parents as Teachers also has a framework for socialization that they started using as well. So when you look at the PWE model, there are these dyadic and triadic strategies that our PEs use with the families when they're helping them learn to interact and have those parents actually doing activities and playing with the kids. So like I said, the Parents as Teachers curriculum also has a similar framework called What You Do Matters, and that's a plan that they use for socialization groups too. And the parent educators began using that in the 22-23 program year. So it's kind of all an overlay. That's a 6-week series to help parents learn about how to play and everyday interactions that help their child's development. And through that, they share their own experiences, they ask questions, they try out activities, and they set goals. So they have some goals that they set for themselves. Okay. All right, so we're going to stop right here and move on to a story about a little kiddo that was in our Armstrong.
So in 2020, the beginning of 2022, a little boy, I'm going to call him Brandon. It is not his real name and not anywhere close to it. He started in our EHS program. This graph comes from EC Swiss and shows the average incidence per day per month of that year with regards to his behaviors. During this time, we had just started implementing PBIS strategies in those classrooms. As you can see, he had a very high point in April, and he started to go back down as the end of the year came about. And then when we started our next program year, he came, was doing a little well, August, September, October. He started to get a little older, and then he ended up being one of the oldest kids in that classroom. At the time, the room wasn't implementing a lot of the PBIS strategies. And the ones they were implementing were a little bit more geared toward the younger students in the room, and his behaviors started to jump significantly. They hit a very high in November. At that time, we looked at the data and the classroom structure. We had some tips meetings. We talked to the teachers. We talked to his family. We talked to our behavioral consultant, our special services coordinator, and after a lot of looking at this and discussion, it was decided that it might be in his best interests to move him to the other classroom where we had a space, and he would also be one of the younger students in that room, so he would be able to see older children engaging in behaviors that were more age appropriate for him. We decided that at the end of November. During the month of December, we started working on that transition, introducing him to his new teacher, getting him a little bit used to that room. Even whenever we were introducing him to her, she was doing the expectations with him at that point too. She was working on teaching him the routines in their classroom, working on teaching him we walk, we use gentle hands, gentle touches. And then after we were through with the holidays in January, he transitioned to that classroom permanently. His teacher spent so much time every day working on teaching him rules, expectations, teaching him what it means to be safe, kind, and respectful in all the various areas of the classroom, using the different strategies that we've talked about, a lot of visuals, a lot of just repetition, constant repetition, showing him, this is safe, this is kind, this is respectful. During that time, she was also teaching him, a lot of his feelings and how he might be feeling. He did not have a lot of language skills, which was part of the problem. So she was teaching him when he was frustrated. She would say, "I see you're frustrated. I see you're mad." Or if he was sad about something, she would say, "I can see that you're sad because he couldn't have a certain toy. Another child was playing with it." So she would verbalize that for him, since he was unable to verbalize it for himself. And as the year progressed, he started to be able to express his feelings in a better manner. She also made a space in the classroom where he could go if he had a lot of energy. he could use that energy in a non-aggressive manner. So we transferred him in January. As you can see, his behavior's drastically dropped. He was having almost 5 incidents a day in November, less than 1 a day in April, none in May, and maybe 1 or 2 the entire month of June. He went from a kid who you had to be on top of. Basically, you had to be with him every second to prevent him from harming someone else, to a child that he could go play with his friends, and you could let him just do it for a couple minutes, because he got a lot better at expressing himself and understanding what it really means to be kind to other children. He is in our Head Start program this year. We've been at school for 2 months now. He's had 4 behavior incidents in those 2 months. He went into preschool really prepared for what the expectations were going to be. He's doing so well. I see him every day because he is in a Head Start room in my building, and he's so happy to be at school. He's listening, he's walking in the hallway, he's being safe, he's using gentle hands with his friends. It's very nice to see how successful it was for him. Also, just some anecdotal evidence. The other students who were in that room with that teacher also went from early Head Start to Head Start this year as well. They went into their rooms day one knowing what to do. They came into the building, followed the routine. It was amazing to watch them. The kids who hadn't been in EHS were kind of a little lost, didn't know what to do. Those 4 kids came in, they waited for their teacher, they went to their classroom, they put their stuff away. They were able to follow all those routines because they had been taught them so well. So, does anybody have any questions for me and Kathy? Oh.
In these classrooms, what is the ratio of teachers and children?
1 to 4. Maximum group size of 8.
Yes.
Many times there are more adults than 1 to 4. So if they have someone that's in the office and one of the caregivers has to feed an infant, because we don't hold an infant, feed the infant, they may say, hey, I have to feed this one, or I have 2 diapers to change. They might call a support person in to help them in the classroom, but it's always, the minimum is 1 to 4. So they're 1 to 4 from the time they enter as infants until the time they go to preschool. It never changes. It's always 1 to 4 with a maximum group size of 8. And that's early Head Start. And IPCS has the same rate.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, the pictures you used with the I'm happy, I'm sad, or, did they come off of Becky Bailey's Conscious Discipline? Did you use that to get the pictures, or did you?
We have some things from Conscious Discipline. The ones that came from the Conscious Discipline, the I Love You rituals, were the ones with the diaper changing activity that had the rhymes.
Okay, twinkle, twinkle, and nice. Yeah.
They were the diaper changing activities that had Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. This is a bunny. Those ones. That was from Conscious Discipline. But we have many of those resources in our preschool program.
Is the presentation up on the event thing that it wasn't last night, so I just think this is up now?
I don't think so. No. No. Anyone else? Sure.
Do you guys have a lot of dual language learners?
Not in the infant toddler program. No, not a lot.
No. We're in. Oh, she asked if we had a lot of dual language learners. not really in our county. We do have a couple in our Head Start programs, but it's a very, very small number.
Is the, what's it, ICTS?
The ICTS.
Is that like an income-based thing, like, or like at start, so you have to be under a certain?
Yeah, she asked if ITCS was a funded program. Yes. The families go through the ELRC, the Early Learning Resource Center that's in their region, and they apply through the Early Learning Resource Center. And then the ELRC passes their information on to us, and then we contact them for enrollment. They do have to meet those CCW guidelines, Child Care Works guidelines, for funded childcare to be eligible for that program. And it is a grant-funded program. We wrote a grant for it, and it's like an extension of pre-K counts, because the ITCS kids stay in that program until they are able to move into a pre-K counts program or to a Head Start program. So they remain with us until they go to preschool.
Is it the same income guidelines as pre-K, so that's kind of higher than Head Start?
It's the CCW income guidelines, yeah, and that's also regulated through DHS. So it has to be a licensed facility through the Department of Health and Human Services, with ongoing oversight from DHS. Does somebody else have a question? No? All right then, I think you can move on to lunch. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.